So they signaled their partners in the other boat. We're going to find out in just a minute. Their partners were James and John. They were a part of the story as Matthew told it, right? They signaled their partners in the other boat to come over and help them. And they came and filled both boats so full that they both began to sink. This is amazing. I mean, what a sight. Can you imagine? This is incredible. And so then he goes on. He says this. When Simon Peter saw this, what do you think he did? What would you have done? I know for me, like my instinct would have been to like celebrate, this is awesome. We fished all night, we didn't catch anything, and now look at this. I'd be, high-fiving Andrew and high-fiving Jesus, and probably would have gotten out my phone and taken a selfie. And, you got to put that on Instagram, right? I mean, that's what I would have done. It says, when Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees, and he said, "Go away from me, Lord. I am a sinful man." Oh, what's so beautiful about this is that in that moment, for Simon, it was no longer about the fish. It wasn't about the boat. In that moment, he recognized for the first time who Jesus was. And he recognized for the first time who he was. And in that moment, he began a personal relationship with Jesus. When he took this practical step of faith, he trusted God just enough to do one thing and to do it different than he'd ever done it before. And when he did that, his eyes were open and he realized for the first time who Jesus was, and he realized for the first time who he was, and he realized right now I'm standing in the presence of my Lord and my Savior. And Jesus didn't look at him, by the way, and say, "It's about time you got this figured out." Jesus was about to invite him to follow him. Let's read on what Luke has to say in verse 9. "For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken, and so were James and John," there they are, "the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, 'Don't be afraid. From now on.'" In other words, he says to him, "I have a future for you, and I couldn't tell you what that future was until you were willing to do this one thing differently. This one, because I asked you to do it. This one thing you've done 1,000 times, to do it different because I asked you to do it. Because you did that, because your teeny tiny little faith, because your teeny tiny little bit of trust intersected with my faithfulness, now you can trust me when I tell you that I have a future for you." It all started with a small decision. It all started with one small step to do something that he'd done 1,000 times before and to do it differently because Jesus says, "Will you do it?"